I want to start with something that researchers who study time perception make a really important distinction between. Because for a lot of us, it's like, okay, why does time go by so quickly? Time seems to just fly. And there really is a difference between how time feels while we are living through it and how long that same time period feels when we look back on it. These are sometimes described as perspective and retrospective judgments of time. So the perspective judgment is what happens when you're actively aware of time passing. So this is usually in uncomfortable situations, like you see how long the line is at Costco and you're waiting in line is all the way back at the end, like, where the meat section is. You're sitting in a waiting room and you're waiting for an appointment. Maybe your child is the last one out of the dressing room after a hockey game. And I know that from experience. Or you're late for something and traffic just seems to like take forever. You are paying attention to the clock. And in these situations, time just feels so painfully slow because part of your attention is focused on measuring it. So then retrospective time is different. That's where you're looking back and you're asking yourself like, whew, where did the week go? Or how are we already inching towards the end of July? Or something like how did my son get this big? Like, how are you this old? Or how are you turning this age? Or how have we lived in this home for this long already? And so researchers have found that when we judge time retrospectively, we don't retrieve some like perfect internal recording of every minute that has passed, obviously, right? We are sort of reconstructing the period using what remains available as memory, like what memories do we have and like how can we piece it all together? So in other words, when we look back on our week or a month or an entire summer, our brains are not counting the minutes and the hours and the days. They are looking for the evidence of what happened or what changed, what was different, what really stands out, and what memories can I retrieve from whatever that period is that you're looking back on.